Good morning, guys. Welcome back to Triathlon Mobility Daily. We are going to be getting into some internal rotation work on the hip. We're going to be getting into our TFL, our tensia fascia lata, which is on the side of the hip and just it goes round in towards the hip flexor. All in the name of improving our rotation or our power from the hip in the pull. And also, if you run with your toes, if you're quite duck-footed, if your toes point out slightly, it's going to lead to a whole load of problems whereby your knee is pushing inside the toe, creates a lot of torsion force on the knee. You might roll in and supinate on the feet too much. That leads to all sorts of problems, excessive rubbing down the inside of the foot or bunions and things like that. Basically, we're looking to improve the efficiency of your running technique by almost lining up the joints, and so we've got that optimal power transfer. What's that got to do with the hip? Well, it all originates from the hip. If this TFL, the muscle in question, is really tight, then it is going to pull your foot out to the side. You're going to lose range of motion in the ankle because that's not being fully expressed. So it all originates from that hip. So I'm aware I've been talking for a minute already and I haven't explained what we're doing. We're just trying to get into the hip flexor and that TFL on the roller. You'll notice I've got one knee up, and that's to simulate that twisting motion. I can twist over the roller to place a little bit more weight in it. Again, mobilizing in the position I'm trying to achieve. So I want that rotation. That's how I'm going to move on the roller. Spending about 2 minutes on each side roughly. Same techniques as always, breathing into it, little rotations around, tacking and flossing, trying to just move around that muscle. Move on to your other side. So we're side on, and then the leg comes over the top. Keep the knee bent, and you can affect how much weight is in that TFL. Never want to go up as far as the hip bone, just below that. You also feel this in the quads as well. In one of the previous videos we got into this with the cross ball. I think that video was titled something to do with internal hip rotation. So if you can find that one and scroll back through that, then it'll be worth doing as well. See if I can find that. This is a particularly tender spot for a lot of you, so take your time with it. Let the muscle relax into it when it's ready. It was called Prime Your Hips for Running. That was what the other video was called. So that's going to be another key one to look at. And it will just sort of vary it up a little bit with some different exercises. But if those problems that I mentioned earlier are problems for you, then you'll want to just maybe go back and forth between those videos. It can seem like an overwhelming task to fully mobilize the body and to get everything working as it should, and of course it's always an ongoing process, but the thing I'd say is to focus first and foremost on the things that need the attention immediately, deal with them, then move on to something else. Because all the while those big problem areas are going to hinder the rest of the body and lead to further complications upstream or downstream, so you want to just tackle those first. So last few seconds here, just having a little move around, a little twist over that TFL. might find that one leg is particularly tight, focus more on that side. I think that was the case for me here. So placing that to one side and then grabbing the band that I've hooked up to the sofa leg here. You can hook it up to any immovable object. I'm going to wrap it around my hip, or just right at the top of my thigh. Now you want to edge away from it so that it is creating enough tension. You want to feel like the head of that femur is being pulled to the outside of the joint. That's where we can get maximal internal rotation. So you see what I'm doing is trying to just twist my body or flex the spine laterally. You get a better angle here, in towards the left side. Then I'm going to pick my heel up and try and internally rotate that leg. So almost as though you're trying to point that left knee in towards the right knee. And it's a hard one to perform and also a hard one to explain as well. But try and move around as best you can. It's almost like you're going to feel it dig into the side of the hip. And that's how you know you are internally rotated. We're getting right deep into the capsule. The beauty of the band is that it creates tension at the joint where that is the most stubborn area to get into. So that's why we always use these bands. See how much that leg is internally rotated now. I'm just going back and forth between it. I can just do a few reps, or I try and squeeze for a few seconds, come back, or I can hold it there for a little bit longer. It's all about finding the position that works well for you. But you definitely want to make sure you've got enough tension on that band. If you don't have one of these bands, then you can by all means skip on to the next exercise. Or you can try and achieve this internal rotation without it. But as I said, the joints tend to be quite stubborn. That's the place we want to get into, right into that joint, so that's where the band comes into play. If you're feeling any pain as you do this, any sort of sharp pinching or crunching, then by all means don't push it. We want to just safely take ourselves through a range. That's an indication that you need to deal with the problem first before starting to mobilize it. So you might get a better idea from here as I tackle the right leg. So it's right up into the hip. I'm then twisting in towards my right. See how the shoulders move round to one side. I crunch in to the right, and then I lift that right leg up, or that right heel, and I'm trying to internally rotate it. To get full internal rotation, the head of that femur does need to be pushed up against the lateral side of that hip capsule. So that's why we want that tension pulling the leg out. A few sort of 3 to 5 second holds of this. I did find this very sort of difficult to get into that nice position where you can get maximum internal rotation. So don't worry if you're not finding it straight away. Have a little move around. I think I was just trying to force it in there with the hand as well. in that prime your hips for running video that we did, it would have felt more intense on the hip as we were in that 90-90 position and we twisted round into our back leg to try and get internal rotation. This one won't feel as intense, but you are controlling it. You're not sitting in a passive stretch and then sort of pushing against it. You're the one trying to bring about that internal rotation, so it won't feel as intense, but it's quite hard to achieve that full range when it's not a passive stretch. You're bringing that stretch about. So sitting up then, and we're going to just take our knees over to each side, keeping the body facing forwards, keeping that torso nice and central. You'll feel that pull each time you start to go down to the floor. Just watch how much the hips are rotating over to each side. Watch how much your bum is coming off the floor. So back into that 90-90, which I just mentioned. And then we are going to do that little twist, but just before, I'm just going to keep the torso nice and upright, keep the shoulders back, chest out, and I'm just going to hover over that front knee, just creating a nice stretch down the glutes, or that left glute in particular. A couple of breaths into that before trying to pick that back leg up. A few reps, so we're going to do 2-second hold at the top. Might need to use the floor for this to be able to get some height, but try and isolate that hip as much as you can. Try not to push off against anything else. 8 of these. Before trying to just pick that whole leg up, keep the body nice and tight as you extend at the knee, slide out, pick up the other one, do the same into a straddle position. Little move around there, and then you're going to form the exact same shape on the other side. So the logistics of that movement might have lost a few of you. Don't worry, just come into the 90-90 on the other side. Get yourself into a bit of a glute stretch. Tall spine, shoulders back, chest forward. Breathe into that for a couple of breaths. Okay, once more we're going to do those internal rotation reps. See how this leg compares to the other leg in terms of height. 2-second holds at the top, 8 in total. Try and tense the whole body up as you pick that leg up. Just watch that you're not compensating too much for the rest of it. You can lean forward as much as you need to get that leg off the floor, but bear in mind the taller you are, the harder it's going to be. We want to keep it strict as much as we can. So pick that leg up, extend it, pick the other leg up, extend it out into straddle, a little move around, you can pitch yourself forward slightly. Great one for the lower back. Before coming down into a squat, so if you need to hold on to something in front of you, by all means do so. We're trying to push the knees outside the toes. We want the toes facing forward. Little movement around on the ankles, little bounce on the hips. And definitely the one we want to focus on is as those knees come out, it's just keeping those toes facing as far forward as possible. You can see mine have just slid out there. So lying on the back now, just taking that leg into 90 degrees, and we're going to just explore external internal rotation. So you're basically just trying to pitch the foot out to the sides whilst keeping the knee in the center. Just have a little move around, see how far you can take it without any external force. So see how much you can use your strength. Repeat that for the other leg. See how much range you get before coming into this next position. We're going to fold one knee, in this case my left knee, down towards the floor. The right foot just comes on top of that left knee just to push it down into position. The whole body wants to rotate over towards the right, but you're just going to try and go against that and keep your body as flat as possible. Keep both shoulders on the floor. Back up nice and slowly when you're ready. Just go down to the other side. So right knee this time points in towards the floor. Left knee, left leg comes on top just to assist. And then I just twist in towards my right hand side. I'm just using the sofa there just to assist me in that position. Holding that for as long as you like, breathing into that, feel it pull on the outside of that hip. Before bringing that up when you're ready. Well done guys, that is it for today. Hopefully that has improved upon that internal hip rotation. I think I'm trying a little challenge there, just standing up without using the hands. You can do that if you want, otherwise you can crack on with your day. And I'll see you back here tomorrow guys.